Ned Kelly. Everyone knows him. He's a criminal, he's a crack shot with his pistol, he fought policemen, and then of course there's his trademark iron armor. He has inspired so many people, there have even been a couple movies made about him. But the big question remains, was Ned Kelly a hero, or was he a villain? In June 1855, Ned Kelly was born into an Irish Catholic family. That was 160 years ago! His parents were John and Ellen Kelly, and he was the eldest son of 8. When Ned Kelly was 11, he saved a young boy from drowning in Hughes Creek. The young boy's name was Richard Shelton. He was 7 years old at the time, and his parents rewarded Ned for his bravery and his courage with a green silk sash with golden trimmings. It was said to be Ned Kelly's most treasured possession and was caught wearing it one time during one of his crimes. When Ned was about 12 years old, his father spent 6 months in prison for the unlawful possession of a cowhide. Poor old John died shortly after his release, leaving the Kellys without a father. Ned has since then been in and out of prison for various assaults, including riding a stolen horse, taking livestock, and fighting police. On the 15th of April 1878, the Fitzpatrick incident happened. Alexander Fitzpatrick was apparently new to the area and wanted to prove he was hot stuff. So he rode out to the Kelly home to arrest Dan Kelly all by himself. Just so you know, Dan Kelly was one of Ned Kelly's brothers and played a huge part in the Kelly gang. It is said that Fitzpatrick was a little bit drunk, and when he got to the home, finding that Dan was not there, he assaulted Ned's 14-year-old sister. That's when Ned Kelly showed up. He shot the officer with his pistol, and that made the mother, Ellen Kelly, spring into action. She hit the officer with a shovel over his head, denting his metal helmet. The Kellys then tended to his wounds and invited him to a nice supper, because that's what you do when an officer assaults a family member. Fitzpatrick left. The Kellys were accused of attempted murder, and Ned and Dan fled into the bush where they formed the infamous Kelly gang. He continued to commit crimes along with his Kelly gang. They once even robbed a bank dressed as police officers. Because of his crimes, the law force put a humongous price over his head, a price worth tens of thousands today. But if he was causing all this trouble, why did the common people view him as a hero? I mean, he took their money, he took their livestock. He held people captive, but it was never said that he caused any bodily harm to the person. He always let them go once he was done with them. And I reckon this would have been a sign that even though he was a criminal, he was on the commoner's side. We come to the end of his life, where he made his last stand at Stringy Bark Creek. This was the part he was most famous or infamous for. It was the 26th of October 1878. 4 policemen rode out into the bush in search of the Kelly gang. They made camp, and while 2 of the officers went out to collect firewood or something, Ned and Dan snuck up on the remaining 2 and held them captive. Their names were McIntyre and Lonergan. McIntyre, seeing the danger he was in, surrendered immediately, but his comrades shot at Ned Kelly, and Ned Kelly shot back, killing Lonergan instantly. When the other 2 returned, McIntyre was supposed to tell them that if they surrendered, Ned would not hurt them. Even though they were warned, they fired at Ned Kelly. When one of them started it, Ned shot him dead. The other hid behind a tree, shot at Ned Kelly, but Ned managed to get him as well. McIntyre was the only surviving officer. McIntyre escaped on horseback, and Ned let him go, because he did promise that if they surrendered, he would not harm them. And Ned Kelly was a man true to his word. That was the only time Ned ever committed murder, and as the story goes, he was never the first one to shoot. It was more or less in self-defense, and let's not forget that a few of his own gang members died as well. Eventually, Ned Kelly was caught, and over 30,000 people pleaded for his release, but sadly, it didn't happen. Ned Kelly's hanging took place at Old Melbourne Jail on the 11th of November 1880. He was only 25. Ned Kelly is like the Aussie Robin Hood, and like the saying goes, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and just like that, whether he is a villain or a hero depends on you. So what's my opinion? To me, Ned Kelly is like the two sides of a coin. You can't have a coin with only heads or only tails, just like you can't have Ned Kelly with only crime or only decency. So was he a hero or a villain? I think he was both.